Love it. DM at Art Magazine. Send this pic to the Art Factory. Send me pic at Universe of Art. DM at Send this art at the Amazon Art Factory. Send this DM at Art Factory. If you've been on Instagram for any amount of time, you've undoubtedly seen these comments on your post. But I thought it'd be way more fun to use them for a different purpose. So over the next couple days, I'm gonna take the screenshots from my own Instagram account and I'm gonna turn them into art. Hopefully this will make it worth having to deal with all these stupid comments over the years. Now the best part is whenever I post these on Instagram, I will still get these comments. So it'll just be one great big loop. Seeing spam accounts comment on art made by spam accounts will be quite the sight to see. I've already got a couple of ideas, so I'm gonna get started. All right, so for this first one, I kind of wanted to just get someone like yelling and then like spewing out all of the comments, kind of like they're like throwing it up or something like that, or yelling it or screaming it. Then I dropped in a handful of comments so that way I could get to working on putting those exactly where I wanted them to kind of be coming out. I tried to space them out and move them around just so it felt natural and it didn't look like I, put them all in the same place or made them too even or too exact. I wanted it to kind of feel chaotic and natural, as if, this person was like actually like, spewing these out. I had to do a little bit of readjusting and moving things around and kind of testing a couple things out, but I eventually landed somewhere that I was pretty happy with. But after that, it felt a little bit empty with the rest of the page. But I wanted to add a little bit more, so it seemed like there was a bit more of the bits that were coming out. So it wasn't just the ones that were coming straight out of the mouth. You could see the ones that I had, previously already came out and were being thrown out through the air. I think it really made things feel a little bit more chaotic and visceral than they had if it was just what was in the mouth before. All right, so now I'm gonna start dropping in some extra elements just to kind of make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more chaotic. Luckily with a crazy idea like this, that's not too hard to accomplish. All right, so I dropped in a bunch of stuff, but I still felt like the extra comments that were kind of flying out felt a little bit empty and kind of disassociated from the rest of the piece. So I wanted to add just kind of these orange dots around just to kind of connect those two parts of the image. So that way it felt a little bit more cohesive. And it would also kind of add to that chaotic factor since there's just a little bit more spewing out. And I've always been a big fan of Swiss type, and so I like to incorporate that into my work whenever I can. So now I'm just adding some text just to kind of fill out the space and just add a little bit more context to the image. Now I wasn't sure the legality of actually like calling out one of these accounts by name, so I just put in a placeholder account name. So I blurred it out so you wouldn't know exactly what account I'm talking about, but could infer what I'm insinuating. The text felt a little bit too clean, so I wanted to add some texture just to kind of rough it up a bit and kind of make it gel a little bit better with the rest of the piece, which is, kind of chaotic. So that's the first piece that I did. So now we'll move on to the second. All right, so for the second piece, I wanted to do something where I would have the comments kind of coming out of a trash can. So I spent some time refining these trash cans because I wanted to have just an empty trash can without a lid. But unfortunately, I couldn't really find an image that fit exactly what I had in mind. So I kind of had to do some impromptu photo editing. So here you just see me taking pieces from the trash can next to it, just so I can apply it to the other one, so I can kind of get rid of the lid that's covering it, bring back the lip in that wasn't there. Honestly, this kind of stuff isn't really my strong suit. So even though I'm not the greatest at it, it definitely came in handy being able to kind of retrofit different parts of the image to eventually make up what I actually wanted. It definitely wasn't perfect, but since the comments were going to be covering up a lot of the back part of the trash can, I didn't want to spend too much time trying to make it perfect when no one's really going to see it. So of course I dropped in my comments, threw them in there, tried to make it feel as haphazard as I possibly could. Dropping in some elements just to kind of make it feel a little bit more chaotic and visceral, like trash. And here I'm just kind of erasing different bits of this scribble just so it makes it seem like it's coming in and out of those comments. So that way it makes it feel like there's actual depth in the photo rather than me just putting that above or behind. So that way it feels like it's, going in between, coming in and out of, and it makes it feel a little bit more live and realistic. And here I'm just adding some texture and color just to kind of make everything pop a little bit more. And unfortunately, it took me way too long to figure out that I don't know how to spell, because there's definitely only one character that I needed to blurt out rather than two. I'll fix it eventually, but believe me, it took me way too long to figure out. I'm pretty notorious for being a terrible speller, and you can definitely see that here. Of course, here I finally realized my misspelling error, and I correct that pretty quickly and pretty simply. But that's the second image that I came up with. So let's move on to the third. Now for the third piece, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So the last two pieces were just kind of making fun of the fact that these are stupid, invaluable comments. But with this one, I kind of wanted to take those comments that are invaluable and then kind of make them something at least kind of pretty. So I had the idea to take those comments and make them the flower petals on this flower. I thought that might kind of have a cool, interesting look, but also kind of, make it, where I'm taking this trash and then I'm turning it into something beautiful. So here I'm just going and refining my selection because Photoshop just didn't do a great job, honestly. So I'm just going back through, making those just a little bit better than they were before. So here I dropped in all of my comments. I'm gonna hide all of those just so I know exactly what I'm working with, and then I just began placing them and resizing them so they would fit exactly onto each petal respectively. And honestly, this was incredibly time consuming and pretty tedious. After about doing this like 10 times, I was already over it. But unfortunately at that point, I was already too far in to turn back, so I just kind of had to buckle down and just keep going. Luckily, it was worth it because the end result was pretty cool, but definitely in the moment, I was rethinking my decision to do this. All right, this is pretty much more of the exact same thing, so I'm gonna speed this up more than it already is, just so you don't have to sit through 20 minutes of this. And then I finally finished it. So then I started working on the contrast of the flower just to make it kind of stand out a little bit. And then I started playing around with some design elements that I wanted to use. And then I just started kind of dropping in some of those circles just to add to the chaos and add some color to it. But really that's it. It was a pretty simple design. It wasn't anything too crazy. It was just very tedious and took a lot of time. But that's it for this one, so let's move on to the very last design that I made. Now this last one, I wanted it to be more focused on Instagram as a whole. I just kind of wanted to make a point that Instagram is just flooded with these comments. So I wanted to do something with the Instagram logo and have it incorporate all of these stupid, useless spam comments. So I just got a download of the Instagram logo and then I started just kind of clipping these comments onto it. I played around with it for a little bit, but I just wasn't quite happy with where it ended up. It was fine. It just didn't really feel like something that I would really make. So I wanted to kind of try something else. So instead I made a solid background and took the logo out of that background. I could fill up the space with more of those comments and make it feel a little bit more chaotic, and you can actually so you could actually see what the comments were. But it felt a little bit too clean even after all that. So I added this kind of glass breaking texture, which I think is kind of fitting I guess it kind of would signify that Instagram is a broken system with all these stupid, useless comments. And then after that, I just kind of added some grunge elements just to make it a little bit more distressed and chaotic. But really, this was a really quick and simple one, but that's pretty much it for that design. So those were the 4 designs that I ended up coming up with using the spam Instagram comments. Honestly, I wasn't really sure how this was all gonna pan out. I just kind of had the idea, I just wanted to see what happened. But honestly, some of them came out pretty cool. I think my favorite is between the first 2. The second 2 were cool, but I don't know, they just didn't quite do it for me. I had a lot of fun doing this and I want to do it again. I'm just not sure what else I can do because I don't want to just do the exact same thing like I did here and use Instagram spam comments. So I'm gonna have to kind of think about and see if there's maybe some other way or some other type of spam that I can use in these designs. That being said, if you have any ideas, please let me know. I'd love to hear it because I'd love to be able to do something like this in the future. But that's all for this video. Let me know what your favorite design was, and I'd appreciate it if you would check out the rest of my channel and consider subscribing.